Someone came up to me the other day and asked me if I've heard about this guy, Lou Heckler. What do you know about him? Can he help me with my keynote? It was all I could do to help keep from laughing, which would have been rude, but to ask if Lou Heckler can help craft a keynote is like asking if rain clouds can produce rain. Lou is the man, and I'm honored to feature Lou in this upcoming segment of VOE because he is a voice of experience. This is Chuck Gallagher with VOE, and I really cannot believe that I'm sitting here interviewing Lou Heckler. And I remember, Lou, when I was a bit younger, living in the western part of North Carolina, watching WBTV,
yes, sir.
And you were on TV, and I was like enthralled by the TV personalities from Channel 3, a CBS radio station.
Yep.
And now I'm talking to you and interviewing you. That's a strange turn of events for me.
You're revealing both of our ages.
Well, I am a bit, but that's okay. I think everyone in NSA knows that if someone says, I really need to tighten up my speech, I need to add humor to it, I need to do something that is really going to take it to the next level, you are the guy to talk to.
That's very nice, Chuck. Thank you.
Well, it's true. So help me understand, how did you get to that place where you are the man?
Yeah, it accidentally, in a way. I mean, like a lot of careers, you think it'll go like this, but instead it goes like this.
Right.
I've always been a student of performance. I always was fascinated growing up watching early television, watching live shows, watching how people beckoned you almost up onto the stage with them or into the television with them. I had the great fortune, as you mentioned, of working in television for many years, and I was around tremendous performers, people who could do anything, be any character, be straight, be silly, be whatever they wanted to be. And I just got to be a real student of how people perform and what moves us. So when I came into NSA, almost from the beginning, several people would come up to me and they'd see me do maybe a workshop or a breakout session, and they'd say, "Could you help me with this?" And I say, "Yeah, sure, okay." Well, one day, Scott Friedman, who was one of our past presidents at NSA and a longtime friend, he called me up and he said, "Do you ever do formal coaching sessions?" And I said, "No." He said, "Would you like to?" And I said, "You mean with you?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Yeah, sure, okay." He said, "What would you charge?" I said, "How much do you have?" I had no idea how to set it up. But he came, and we really clicked together. And I discovered something. This will sound like false humility, but it's not. I discovered something I didn't understand, and that was I could help other people with their material as well as working on my own material.
Sure.
I could see certain things they could do in stagecraft, in vocal, changing the way they spoke vocally, just all kinds of things that I had learned because I had been able to sit at the foot of so many other great performers. Now, in addition to that, my wife and I sometimes joke about this. We always say our drug of choice is Broadway shows.
Okay.
So over the years, we have been to more than 100 Broadway shows. And it so fascinates me because, not only because of the level of performance, but because of the consistency of performance. Because if you're in a good show, you're on 8 times a week.
Right.
You're on 6 nights, you're on 2 matinees.
Absolutely.
And if Chuck Gallagher is sitting in the audience, for him it's the opening night. So you have to perform at that level, whether it's your opening night or whether it's the 137th time you've done it.
I can remember bloopers from the Carol Burnett show and see things that were there, and it was funny. Yeah. It was just funny, and people could have fun. Dick Van Dyke and some of these guys, Tim Conway, oh my gosh, what have you in tears?
Yes.
And yet today, some of those things you probably couldn't say.
Wouldn't put on the air, no.
Right. So how do you help coach people through that minefield?
Yeah, it is a minefield, and I think we can overreact to it, first of all.
Okay.
And sort of water down our humor. I go back to an interview I saw one time with Whoopi Goldberg on Inside the Actors Studio on the Bravo cable channel.
Sure.
And she said, "I think the best humor is simply that in which we see ourselves." So what I try to help people find is the humor just in everyday life, in this mass of ego and contradictions and fears and joys and all that stuff that we all have. Because I think when you're up on the stage, there's a piece of all of us watching. We want to feel like on this day, on this subject, for this occasion, you're an expert. You know a little more than I do. But I also kind of want to feel like maybe you could live next door to me, that you're just a real guy or gal. And so we look for everyday types of things that are funny about how kids say things, how we all, as I said, are a bundle of contradictions. So I'm not looking for, like a comedian is really looking for a bam, a punchline, a laugh line.
Sure.
I'm just looking for something where people are smiling, kind of going, yeah, that's me. Yep, I do that too. Mm-hmm. I'm goofy like that as well. And so my coaching of humor is more in the realm of helping people see the humanity that we all have and how silly we all are without realizing it.
So when a person comes to you and says, Lou, I've got a keynote on X topic, whatever that topic may be,
Yeah.
are there specific things that you are always looking for in a keynote that those who are listening or maybe watching on our YouTube channel, are there specific things that people really need to know and hone in on?
I think so. I think every great speech is not only on a topic, it's on stress management, it's on leadership, it's on safety or whatever it might be, but it also has a very specific and very consistent theme that carries us through. So one of the first things we work on is, on this topic, what is your theme? In other words, what's your specific approach that will make me want to listen to you? Or if you're a meeting professional, what's a specific approach you have that will want to make a meeting professional hire you to speak at this particular organization? I really think over all my years in speaking, I've come to the conclusion that I don't get hired for my topic, I get hired for my theme. My unique approach, maybe not unique is maybe not the right word, but my different approach that I can support with my examples, with my life experiences and so on. So we start with that, and then the hardest part, I think, in helping people, because mostly I'm helping people with their keynotes, is most of us who get into the speaking business, we start out doing training, we start out doing workshops and that kind of thing. And we gather information, we gather information, we gather information. We know a whole bunch of stuff about a whole bunch of things. And now I want to do a 45-minute keynote. And they're like, uh-oh, I know about 7 hours worth of stuff. How do I put it into 45 minutes?
Absolutely.
So because I was trained initially as a journalist, and again, I didn't realize this when I started coaching, I had learned skills about, my typical thing when I was in television as a young news reporter was, you cover a 3.5-hour county commission meeting, and you come back into the studio, and the news director says, okay, good, you have 43 seconds to tell the story. So I found that I had a skill of being able to boil down a lot of information to the essence of what it really was. One of the conversations we often have when people are coaching with me is they spin out all kinds of things that they have to say and that they want to say, and I find myself saying, you know, that's interesting. I think what this speech is really about is, and I say whatever I think that is, and they get this look on their face like, oh my gosh, yeah, that is kind of what I want to say. I never thought of that as being like my theme. So, you know, thank goodness for the journalism school at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill that taught me how to boil things down to the essence.
Okay, that's funny. I like the boiling down to the essence. And for those listening on VOE, that is a critical component. I also have to say, I moved to South Carolina and someone said to me one day, you know, Carolina's playing somebody. And I was like, no, they don't play them. No, they're playing somebody.
The other Carolina.
No. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And, you know, they're talking about the University of South Carolina.
Right.
And I said, no, there's only one Carolina, and that's where the sky is Carolina blue, and Michael Jordan played basketball. Now I've just turned off all of my South Carolina friends and buddies, but, you know, you understand. I still got to go there. Lou, if you were talking to an emerging speaker or someone that's new in their career, you came in fact to the Carolinas chapter and you did a marvelous job, and you also did some coaching sessions. And so if you're taking someone like that and you're going to give them one or two pieces of advice, what is it?
Wow. The first thing is find a subject about which you really feel great passion, something that you feel that has been essential in your life, to your success, to your joy, to your well-being, and also that you can parse, that you can take down into the steps that sort of got you to where you feel that way. Because what we want from you, I think, when you're up in front of the room is, explain to me why I should believe this, how I can feel this, how I can get to the point where you are. When people are starting out in the business, I'll speak for myself. You say, well, I want to speak on this, I want to speak on this, I want to speak on this, I want to speak, I know about this, I know about this. But you really need to sort of specialize in something. Not only that you believe in or you're experienced, but that you will talk about for a period of time. In other words, something that will have legs, as they say, right?
Sure.
So it's very important to choose an area that you feel passionate about. Now here's the catch. You'll say, well, I really feel passionate about this subject, but oh my gosh, there must be 100 speakers, 500 speakers, 1,000 speakers out there that speak on this same thing. And the answer is, yeah.
Sure.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
But what we want to do is come back behind your head and look out this way and say, how do you see this? What insight can you give me from your experience? And I think what they have to do then is go back and realize that when you get to that point where you're willing to stand up in front of a group and say things, you already have a great deal of information that maybe you haven't thought about.
Sure.
So you have to go back and say, well, what did I learn growing up? What did I learn about where I grew up? What kind of schools I went to? Was I in the military? Did I play any athletics? Was I a dancer? I mean, what are the things that can be blended in? Because in every one of those, there's some kind of a lesson from which the rest of us can gain.
Lou, with all of the vast experience you have, and again, people really understand the talent you bring to the table in helping synthesize a speech and a theme and make it very powerful. But with all of the years of experience you have, when you go back to the speaking days, I'm not talking necessarily about the TV days, but the speaking days,
yeah.
What would experienced Lou tell young Lou not to do?
Not be cheap. Not only cheap in what I was charging, but in cheap in how I approached it. I probably should have taken out a small business loan or something like that. Instead, I was typing up handouts on a $100 electric typewriter on the dining room table. The material I sent out on myself was very crude and basic and did not reflect any real professionalism. It's important at the beginning to create an image that will be a powerful image that will bring you the kind of income and the kind of impact that you want to have. I did it on a shoestring, and I think I would have done it very differently. The second thing I would suggest to old Lou Heckler is pick, as Jane Atkinson, the wonderful coach up in Canada, says, pick a lane. Figure out something that you really can do well and focus in on that. I should have listened to one of my speech professors in college who said, become an expert on one subject, no matter how narrow it is, become an expert on one subject, and you will always have work.
Lou, I appreciate it, and I want to thank you for the time that you spent on television, broadcasting all over Western North Carolina, and influencing people in ways that you will never know and probably won't remember. But you and Ty Boyd and a host of other people really set a wonderful example of what journalism is.
It was a great place to work.
Professionalism is.
Thank you.
Yeah, it really was. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chuck.
Lou, appreciate it.